All right, and we are live. And as you can tell by the title of this stream, we are all fascists here. Welcome, fellow fascists. If you feel inclined to embrace your inner fascism, go ahead and
The
if you
fourth
want
Reich
to
will rise for 1,000 years.
disavow, disavow.
Yeah, yeah.
Although the full disclosure, I do support Buddha's Third Reich.
Ooh, that'd be a very peaceful one.
It would be. I mean, the pug utopia. Oh my god. For for Wolfland forever. Oh. All right. So for those of you who aren't in on the joke, I have released two videos in which I took the IDR test on fascism. And woo lad, woo lad. The first one I took called me a fascist fellow traveler. It marked me as 36% fascist. All right, fine. I'll take the 36%, not a problem. And then I took the other one where it shows you like what makes you a fascist, like what values make you inherently basically a bad person. And then it jumped up to 51%. And then I had to stop and go, huh, something might be funny with this quiz. And then I started seeing my friends taking this quiz. One of them only scored 24%, and they were very sad that they only scored 24%. And the rest of us got like 50, 54, 60, somewhere in the 30s. I know a particular German who scored like 91% on
Oh
the
dear God.
fascism test. And the thing is, it's not even that he's personally a fascist. It's just that, God damn it, runner.
That
Oh
wasn't
no.
me.
Oh, that's spicy.
What happened?
Oh, you're moving about, and I can hear it on the stream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dara, I fixed up my microphone, finally.
All right. Well, it is what it is. Spicy P is in a precarious situation where he's on 2G Wi-Fi and he's right next to the puck receiver. So we're gonna extend him a little grace. Um, but so where was I? Oh yes, the German. So my German friend scored like 91% on this fascism quiz, and it's not even because he has radical fascist views. It's just that as a German, he would like to see, the resurgence of the glory of, Deutschland.
He'd like to go back to, I would say, it's what, Prussian times, so
Yeah,
before 1914.
pretty much. And you can't blame the Germans for wanting, be back in their heyday. That's not necessarily fascist per se. And we found a so suffice to say, if you take this test, if you are anywhere near conservative, if you're religious, if you have any religious sentiment, you're going to score highly as a fascist on this quiz. Um, because I highly suspect that if our founding fathers were to have taken this quiz, they too would have been like 70% fascist. Um, but Spicy P has informed me that he's run tests on this quiz. So tell me more about it.
All right, so real quick though, for my background, I did a baseline test just on what I believe alone, and it was a 52.5% on the fascist scale. So what I agreed to was basically a more military attitude towards life in general, especially if it comes towards our kids in school, if it comes towards law and order and punish people, period. I didn't agree to putting people on lists and whatnot, but what I did was the second go around, I did the reverse. I did the exact opposite answer on all the questions that I would normally do, and the percentage dropped down. So I just kept playing with it. And essentially, if you're not for the state, if you're not willing to give up your rights or to look the other way if the state has to do something that would be morally wrong, you're a fascist. So
Wait,
what
say
they're
that again.
Wait, what?
yeah, if you take this test and you answer it the way a fascist would, the way a 1930s bad guy would, you would come out just fine. You would come out at the bottom of the percentages. But if you're conservative, if you believe in the Constitution, if you believe in discipline, law, and order, you're going to at least, at minimum, score somewhere in the 50% range.
Okay. I think, okay, number one, let's point out the obvious. This quiz is a goddamn psyop.
Oh, yeah.
Um, let's just put that right out there. But secondly, what I realized as I was taking the test is, and reading the comments on my video for these two different tests that I did. If you believe, as the left does, in something called cultural fascism, you're being lied to, because there's absolutely nothing about fascism that is strictly cultural. Fascism is ultimately defined. It is defined by wanting this, is giving the state power and giving the state control over everything. Now, if you believe that that you want a strong and robust and coherent cultural narrative, if you want societal values, but you don't want them necessarily legally mandated, you're safe. You're not a fascist. But if you believe that the enforcement of cultural values is quote unquote cultural fascism, that doesn't exist. Fascism does not exist in the cultural range. The culture that fascism creates is purely coincidental. It has nothing to
Well,
do with fascism itself.
so dirty little secret. Once upon a time, long, long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, when my parents didn't tell me much about my family history, I at one point I actually thought I was a fascist, and I met up with a fucking bunch of group of guys, got to know them. They were stupid. No big
How,
surprise there.
I mean, how dare you go out and explore other go out and explore other ideologies and make mistakes? How dare you, sir?
Yeah,
Um,
I know, right? But I found out they are stupid. Now, the idea of what fascism is, it can be a cultural thing. An example would actually be the country of Germany, where I was born, unfortunately. But rewind that.
uh-huh.
In in German society, it is now when I was growing up there, you obeyed your parents, no ifs, ands, or buts. You did exactly what you were told. If you're out in public, though, public displays of affection, trash goes in the trash can. This whole thing with Americans running, civilian Americans running around with a big fat dip in, that wouldn't happen. Spitting it on the street, oh dear God, no. If you happen to be with your mom, she would beat your ass. Now,
That's
now
funny.
something else something else that's different from when I was a kid. So back in 1995 is when I came to the States. But what I remember was there was a lot of pride in the work that you did, like we used to have here in the States. Well, I know I have pride in what I do, but there used to be a lot of pride. Well, I went back when I was 16, and while the kids still listened to their parents, there were still disciplinary issues. I did have a cousin that hopped in with a group of bad guys, German bad guys, and I helped him get out of it. Essentially, had to fight him out of it. It was a very
Very
hard
German.
go. It was a very hard month getting him out of there, trying to figure out where he was going. But there's no longer the pride in their work. They, they it's really difficult. There is a culture to it. Like it again, Carnal, you're a vet.
No, I am not actually. I am not a veteran.
Okay, but regardless, you still have discipline.
Oh yes, 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 yes.
And that is a big thing to fascism. You have to have a lot of discipline to be a fascist. You have to be able to put your head down and do as you're told, period. That requires discipline. But at the same time, here in America, discipline, we do have in the military discipline to do as we're told, but with the caveat, as long as the order you're given is not, if you're, the order you're given is illegal or will result in civilians being killed, you don't have to follow it. Now, there are situations that can happen where civilians get killed, like suicide bombers. You can't stop that no matter how hard you try. A suicide bomber is going to pop when a suicide bomber wants to pop. But
Yeah.
beyond that, if it is a order that you cannot morally do yourself, you can disregard that order or outright deny that order. You're going to get hemmed up. You're going to get brought up before a judge, advocate general, a JAG court martial, but you're gonna have to fight it out. But I haven't seen anybody get charged for doing what is morally right.
Okay. All right.
Uh, yeah.
So we've been asked to publish the a link to this quiz, and I'm going to do that in the in the main chat. So give me just 1 second
Oh,
as
you're
we
good.
as we get this up here. Do do do.
There was a question on that test, and I don't. This makes me think that the people that also made this test aren't American. So
Yeah.
it's like it's between 47 and 50 is where this question's at, and it's about everyday civilians should join a paramilitary organization like the National Guard or some other group. Well, I don't know if people know this outside the US, but the National Guard is actually not a paramilitary, bless you, is not
Yes.
a paramilitary group. The National Guard is
A
this
military group.
it is a military group, but it's also not a federal military group. It is a military group for the state. So it's technically a state sanctioned militia for the state itself. Now, in times of war, when stuff starts like the Iraqi invasion, not so much Afghanistan, that was a slow escalation. But for like Iraq, first active duty guys went over there, like 82nd Airborne, like Marine Recon, so on and so forth. And what that does is they'll deploy for anywhere from a year to 15 months. And that gives all that time for the National Guard guys to start training up for a deployment to that particular war zone. And when they start the training cycle, then they are federalized and they are paid like an active duty soldier would be.
Yeah. So clearly, there's a disconnect for those who are not American, who think that the National Guard is like how would you say, like a ragtag militia, like a Blackwater group, because they're not.
Well, even Blackwater, who is now actually under another name by it's called Z, but it's spelled XE. Last I heard, and that was
Uh huh.
7 years ago. But so the National Guard is a militia of sorts. It's just state sanctioned and it's state funded. Whereas like if you were in Georgia or Ohio and you joined the National Guard, there's nothing weird about that. A lot of people do it. What is different in Georgia and Ohio, there's also two militias there. There's the in Georgia, there's the Georgia Defense Force and there's the Ohio Defense Force. And the people that go in there are all walks of life, white people, Asians, Hispanic, black, but you also run into I heard one word called a FUD, like a fat overweight dude running around with his whatever the hell rifle, and
Mm.
they'll do battlefield scenarios, and every once in a while they'll go out and uh they'll pay a special forces guy, a retired special forces guy, that's running a school that'll train them on close quarters combat, which would be house to house clearing, or how to improve their marksmanship. There used to be a group called the Appleseed Project where they taught people how to shoot out
Yeah.
to 500 yards with a out to 500 yards, I think it was, with a 22 LR. But that's
Ah,
basically what they do. I've heard of extravagant training scenarios where guys are coming in with blanks and all kinds of weirdness where they have to maintain calmly communications, logistics, running supplies in and out like ammo, food, water, because you can't do something like this and not feed them and water them. They're going to
yeah,
die.
exactly.
Yep.
Well, so going back to this quiz, I know that at least in the Discord, it sparked a conversation about. I think violence is life is the one who brought this up. The role of the government at large. If we're not actually advocating fascism, as this test suggests that we are, what the fuck are we promoting anyway? And so, there was an open question about what kind of government do we want to see. And you see the same kind of conversation in the comments on those two videos that I did, because it's I simply cannot concede to the reality of something like quote unquote cultural fascism, because it completely because even though, as you say, there is a cultural element to fascism, that there's a kind of regimentation that fascism kind of naturally cultivates
Oh yeah,
within
and
a
it's
populace.
very highly regimented. Very much
Uh-huh.
like our school system is actually based off of the Prussian model of schools.
You're shitting me.
I
So okay,
shit you not.
so
No.
hang on. So the American education system is more fascist, is more fascist than, say, the founding fathers' vision for what education should be.
Okay, so I'm not sure what states you've been in specifically. Have you been to Utah?
I've been to Utah. I did not go to school in Utah.
Uh,
Thank
did,
God.
okay. Well, I did some school in Utah and Ohio, and California, but
I did live in California. I'm very familiar with that.
okay. So I had a little different with California since it was on a military base and I barely spoke any English, believe it or not. And then Ohio, the crazy part is those two were completely different worlds. Where in California, because I was on a military base, the teacher didn't mind me asking questions. Whereas in Ohio, I went to a class for government, that was the subject, and I actually got kicked out because the teacher wanted us to do a paper on communism and the how do I put this? The pros and cons of communism. And if you can't find any cons, that's just fine. Wait, what the fuck? It's communism. You can find plenty of cons throughout it.
Yeah.
There's a whole road built based off of people from gulags, and there's more dead. But anyways, so basically to sum up the last sentence to the paper that I did was I put communism gay, and he didn't like that and kicked me out. But because But because I was unwilling to bend to communism's a good thing, I got kicked out of that class.
Oh, to
And
trust me, California's public school right now is probably just as bad.
well, that's the thing. Because I was on a military base, like public schools were pretty damn bad back then, even. And because I was on a military base, it wasn't as harsh like that. I could ask questions. It didn't matter what the question was. That
Yeah.
and I had a lot of questions because my elementary school, we were actually in an old airplane hangar, and there was airplane parts hanging everywhere.
Okay. Well, no, trust me. If how do I put this? Asking the wrong questions in a California public school setting is very. There's a very oppressive atmosphere. Let's just put it that way.
Oh
And
yeah,
those,
let's stick with the theme and just say it's verboten.
yes, very verboten, very verboten. So, where the hell was I going with this? Oh yes, the role, the prop. What are we? If we're not fascists, well, what exactly are we? Like, what kind of government are we specifically rooting for?
We're rooting for a conservative government.
Well, yes, but if how do we frame that? Because apparently, if you want like a social conservative framework, you're being accused of being a fascist. Like, why? Like, we need to apparently spell this out for people.
I'll be
Like,
right back.
all right, go ahead, man. Apparently, this needs to be spelled out. Apparently, there's a significant disconnect between social conservatism and fascism that the lefties and communists clearly don't understand.
Yeah, and that's a disconnect that while do I know what they're saying in their argument, but it's not what they actually mean, if that makes sense.
Well, no, it does make sense, but I had too many comments saying, "Oh, we just need to embrace the fascist label." I'm like, no,
No,
we
no,
don't.
no.
No,
No,
we
we did.
don't.
We don't need
that
to double our chin sizes.
exactly. That is a bad idea. And
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Alex, we are not monarchists. That's not going to fly either.
monarchies are
And
bad. They get too comfortable.
yeah, I would agree with that. Um, monarchy is not the way to go. I'm actually pro term limits for pretty much every politician. They should
Yes.
all be out within 6 or 4 years. I'm down for 1 term service. Like you get one
Ooh,
term, that's it. Oh, and by the way, all of your staff, all of the people who are supposed to be like institutional, nah, flush them too. Fuck them all.
yeah.
Like every time we have a government shutdown, I'm cheering because I know every non-essential dumb fuck is getting screwed, and they need to actually be productive or die, and I'm okay
Well,
with that.
so the downside. Okay, we got before we go into that, we got to bring it back to what we are. What is we are conservative, but what are we trying to do? The creation of this country, the idea was a shining city on the hill, a country based on morals, willing to ask questions. The basic principle was essentially the non-aggression principle, which has failed us, but it's the
Well,
bit the
it's also it's no. I have to talk about the non-aggression principle just for a second. It's redundant. Everyone understands that in every society, at the lowest common denominator, the use of force is always justified. At the lowest common denominator, force is always justified. That's why we give the state the right to execute force because of the need to enforce society at the lowest common denominator. When people act a fool and they're not pleasant and they're acting stupid and they do things that will cause harm or anything adjacent to it, then they need to be brought back in line. That is a fundamental principle of nearly every civilization that's ever lived.
I
So,
I do agree with you on that. But so what I mean by non-aggression principle, I don't mean the state sanctioned stuff, which some of it sucks, some of it doesn't. Like non-violent drug offenders. While
okay,
I'm not a huge fan of fucking drugs. We're at the point now where eh, we just need to release them. But beyond that, what I mean by non-aggression principle, these peaceful but fiery protests.
uh-huh. Yeah,
So I remember. So I'm in Kansas, and I do remember it was either I think it was the James Younger gang. They went into a town to hold up a bank, and instead of people just going, "Oh God, no, we need to call the police or the sheriff or the marshal," nah, motherfuckers in saloons, the barbershop, and wherever the fuck else, they grabbed their fucking firearms and they fought back, and they killed them. They wounded or killed a majority of them.
good.
Now
That's excellent.
think of it this way, though. These fiery but peaceful protests, if the citizens had the ability and the police had the ability without having their hands tied behind their back to actually go out and put these fucking riots down, it wouldn't be a damn issue. And besides that, they're rioting over some pretty shitty people.
Well, and as you
Yep.
bring that up, I have to bring into remembrance Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse got away from
Ah,
Black Lives Matter and the Black Bloc unmolested. He didn't get beat up. He didn't get killed like so many other people did because
Yep.
he was fucking armed. And when they came at him, he reloaded.
Yep.
And I support this. If they keep coming, reload.
they fucked
Yep.
around and they found out, and they're
From
Yep.
an
salty about it.
Aussie. From an Aussie.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah.
God, may America never change.
Yep.
Anyways, so yes, the non-aggression principle in that regard has failed us, but I honestly don't think that the founding fathers were as non-aggression principle as we're making them out to be. These were men who were armed constantly.
Oh
The
yeah, they weren't.
and they had duels on a regular basis. Like they're famous in our early history.
Well, I
The
know
I
Andrew Jackson did.
Andrew Jackson, Aaron Burr, Alexander Hamilton.
Yep.
Up until they either fled the country or died, pistol duels were a thing. And so the idea that you should never aggress someone unless they're causing you harm. I mean, these were pistol duels over verbal insults. So
Bring back the
I,
duel.
exactly, bring back the duel. Bring back combat for honor's sake alone.
Yes.
Oh
So
god, that'll be a
so
bloodbath, and that'll be fun to watch.
well, it's would you rather have that or machete jihadi attacks? I'm going to go with the honor duel.
Yeah.
Come on, that will make a lot of fucking money. Fucking duels.
That would be.
Oh.
I actually have an idea for a business now.
Fucking gamble on duels.
Yeah.
Well, we already have UFC. We don't need to up the ante, gentlemen. But I would support I would support instead of private prisons. I would support funding a federal prison system by televising pay-per-view executions.
Yes.
Are you going the old George Carlton route?
Like no, seriously, gladiatorial combat for salvation, absolutely. Every American loves a redemption story. Anyways,
That
um,
or bring back the old chain gangs.
well, let's not get too spicy.
Oh no, everybody can be on a chain gang. It don't matter. Everyone's an equal piece of shit these days.
uh, so yes, freedom from the perspective of the founding fathers is it, it, here's my question. what percent of fascists on this test do you think the founding fathers would have landed?
That's hard to say. I would actually have to do a lot of research into that, especially when it comes to stuff like the school system.
I'm seriously gonna guess like 60%. The average founding father would land on this fascism quiz.
I was gonna go around 50, 60.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Thinking about it, so let's go back to 1776 and let's think about this. They were all, for the most part, military men.
Yep.
Eh, For the most part, as I understand it, all of them were exceedingly Christian,
Uh huh.
Except for Thomas Jefferson, even though he still read the Bible. It was either Thomas Jefferson. No, it was Thomas Jefferson, not Andrew Jackson. He wanted to kill the banks, but for the most part, they were all Christians. A good hefty chunk of them were Masons, and there was that freaking question about surveilling Skull and Bone Society, and most people don't
Oh
even
my
know what
god.
that is. Yeah, I couldn't believe when I saw that on your stream. That was stupid.
I
But
saw that and I'm like, has anyone ever met personally a Mason that they disliked? I mean, I know the conspiracy theories. I know the list of like powerful people who are in the Masonic lodges, but in your own personal experience,
My
how
grandfather
many?
on my grandfather on my dad's side was a Freemason.
What was he a degenerate piece of shit that was trying to destroy trying to destroy his country?
I never met him.
Okay.
so I've met quite a few Freemasons and Masons in my life, and here in the U.S., I don't know why this is, but I do know a couple. I do know of a couple of lodges down in Georgia that were uh, Jack Masons. They had the label that they were Freemasons, but they really weren't, and
Okay.
they weren't necessarily their best at all times, and I understand that, but uh, I can't talk about the specific individual or the specific situation that happened, but the this particular individual injured himself to get out to go back home for a while we were on deployment. So
Oh.
yeah,
Ooh.
that guy's while
Ah.
yeah, so when he actually came back and tried to pick up where he left off, it didn't pan out so well for anyone involved. He was pretty well ostracized. But beyond that, for the most part, Masons, you have to believe in a higher power. You have to be ready and willing to help out your fellow man. And that one is really cool because it's not, you have to be ready and willing to help out just a Mason. You have to be able to help out anybody that asks for help. But the one
Yeah.
caveat to that is if a Mason does ask for help,
You
it do,
must.
you have to, no questions asked. So if a Mason asks for a gun, it gets a little sketchy there.
Yeah. Um. Wow.
Yeah, that's when I would have to ask questions like, well, slow your roll there. What are you doing? Oh, you're
Well, I
going
mean,
hunting? I'm going with you.
let's be honest. In the Mason society, you're supposed to have a brotherhood. So
No, it
when
is.
so when a fellow Mason asks you, "Hey, I need a gun," he does not have carte blanche to say, "Oh, you're not allowed to ask me questions." You have privilege as a fellow brother to say, "What's up, man?" To tell me more.
And that actually makes me really happy because one of my friends from when I was in the army, he joined up with them, and he's really hard to get a hold of to ask questions. And where I'm at in Kansas, they don't advertise that they are Masons. The Shriners advertise that they're Shriners, not the Masons.
Yeah.
which is really weird because down in the South, they definitely advertise it. They'll get plates, vanity plates. They'll get a little tag on the right hand side above their tail light.
Yeah.
Fucking
I,
hell.
Yeah.
I get that joke. I get that joke. Um, so, but no, I mean, so just to get it down to the nitty gritty, do you know any Freemasons who are pieces of shit? Just in your experiences with them.
Just one.
Just one, okay.
Yeah.
And he was ostracized, correct?
Yeah, and not even by Masons, just by everyday soldiers.
Okay, got it. Got it. So, and that's my point is when they said, "Oh, should we regulate these secret societies?" I'm like, no one's ever met these people, and if you understand like American law, and then it's like, should we have like lists of people who have done things wrong? And I'm like, we
No.
already, we already no. Well, hang on, just let me play devil's advocate here for just a second. We already have a sex offender registry.
This is true.
Shit like that already, like for example, and it is obscenely used, the no-fly list.
Yeah.
Completely arbitrary, makes no sense whatsoever, and yet it exists. So if I say no to this, I am being less fascist than the United States of America currently. And from your testing, from what I hear, if you clicked no, we shouldn't monitor these groups, you were marked as more of a fascist.
Yep.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
That's
So,
not stupid at all.
oh my God. Okay.
Keep in mind also the people that put out this test also put out a Harry Potter test, so I'm not exactly ranking them on the scale of fucking mental giants here.
Oh no, no, no. If you go to the homepage of IDR Labs, there's a sexuality quiz. There's like a gender quiz.
Oh, I
There's
saw them.
there's a bunch of other shall we say problem like not problematic, but highly suspicious
They
categories of tests there.
they seem to lean in a particular direction. And I'm willing
Uh,
to bet if you're to answer like normal people that believe in conservative values, that you're going to be labeled as an evildoer.
which is why the stream is titled "We're All Fascists Here," because clearly, I mean,
Yeah,
of course, of course. So,
of
anyways,
course.
uh-huh. So back to the question of the proper role of government that we wanted to have, because embracing the fascist label is not only stupid, I think it's a psyop. I think they want us to be fascist and fight fascism with fascism, and like I sincerely believe they want middle America to become like the new paradigm of like neocon neoliberal, and I don't see that shit working out very well.
Hmm. So for
So,
that, I'm not sure.
well, I'm not sure either. I'm just following the signs of what this test and its results are telling me.
How long ago did they make that damn test?
Honestly, I don't think it was too long ago, because it just recently became very popular. I think it started off with V actually took the test first, from what I saw.
Oh, I missed it. Okay, I'm gonna have to find that video then.
Yeah, V actually, I think it's on his second channel. Who the fuck is vibrating on my stream?
I'm not.
That wasn't me.
Hmm.
Uh
Okay.
oh.
Don't worry about it. Just the next time it goes off, make sure the woman is close by to appreciate it. Spicy. I mean, you gotta share it.
Oh, actually, it was me. So I just got a news update. Apparently, Biden hurt after falling while playing something. It cuts off there.
Oh,
It's from the
so
Daily Wire, 7 minutes
Playing with
ago.
playing with what? A little girl?
Would it surprise anybody?
Well, I mean, clearly, whatever poor accident befell the media's president elect,
Yeah.
clearly they're gearing towards President Harris, who's also not elected to be president. So if Joe Biden, if something awful happens to Biden before the electors meet, it would kick up everyone in a frenzy. Like I like that would be peak 2020. We have a contested election with accusations, probable accusations of voter fraud, and then we have the media's darling kick the bucket and a non-elected woman, Kamala Harris, up for the presidency, and then we have the American people wondering, well, did we vote for Kamala Harris? Why, no, we didn't. So that would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm here also hearing that to question this election's integrity is also a form of fascism, which is interesting because Pennsylvania is actually in the process of hearings right now, and last I heard, there's 43 missing USB sticks.
Yep, and let's just say there are a host of irregularities surrounding the spikes of votes for Biden from seemingly nowhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
really interesting because I distinctly remember one particular group that had a nasty habit of, you know, not listening to the people and then just doing what they wanted to, and then going, "Hey, if you don't listen to us, we're going to send some people over there to beat your ass or make you disappear."
You mean like fascists?
Yeah, I think that's what they were called.
I think so.
Well. Isn't it good that we on this stream are on the right side of history, then, gentlemen?
And the only right side of history is the winner,
Or the
the
bitchy
moral
loser.
winner.
Oof, oof.
Yeah, there is the bitchy loser.
So I
Ask,
guess I guess
ask
we
the
got to win
German
then.
generals in World War II that.
Mm,
Well, I mean, that would only confirm his statement, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep.
So, well, from that black pill down to the back to the top, what were we talking about?
Fascists.
The onions.
We were talking about what are we as a country? Do we promote fascist ideals or not? And it's down to no. And beyond that, on the founding fathers, there's some questions they'd look at and go, "What the fuck is this? What is this about gender roles? What the fuck is this about your sexuality? If you have dangly bits between your legs, you're a dude, or you have meat
Yep.
curtains." But hey,
Uh-huh. And it's how do I put this? I love the result, the belief from this quiz that if you have any social conservative notions that you are inherently a fascist. I'm just I to me that is just, and the fact that there are so many on the right who are willing to embrace that paradigm is very disturbing to me. But there is another facet of this that I need to discuss, and that is the role of government in the fact that the law serves an educational purpose. Would you agree with that?
the law serves an educational purpose.
Yes, that the law does serve an informative societal function to tell people what is moral and what is immoral.
Yes, on top of that, it also, if while it's there, if the force behind it is week, it doesn't have any consequences. So, like pedos and chomos, if it eventually becomes socially acceptable, they will stop. They will no longer be charged. So that kind of thing will start running rampant. And without law enforcement, and I when I say law enforcement, I just don't mean police. I also mean the
The court system.
prosecution. Yeah, the
Yes.
court system too. Because right now it is heavily skewed towards the DA. The DA has all the damn power. The district attorney, that would be the prosecution if it happened to be any of us three that went to jail for whatever the hell they say we'll do. But if so, when the DA comes out, they can charge you with whatever the hell they want. And your only option is to either prove your innocence, which means depending on the charge, you're going away for a lot longer than you'd want than if you were to plea down or plea out and just quote unquote air quotes admit to the crime.
Yes.
So as it stands right now, and when I was in the army, I was a military policeman. When I got out and saw what was going on, I was like, "Fuck no, I can't be part of this. This it doesn't work anymore. It's broke. I'm out. I'm done."
Yeah. Well, no, and I don't blame you, but here's my problem is on the right there was a time during the faux intellectual neocon establishment essentially said we can give the culture to the left because we have the Constitution, we have the law on our side, we have the laws of the land, we have we have constitutionalism in the moral abstract, and you know, as you say, like that kind of mentality embodies like the NAP and federalism and all this stuff, and I have to push back against that. I have to say, no, we have to fight for the legal enforcement of our cultural values, because if we don't fight for the cultural enforcement of our values as Americans as a whole, it's not that the educational force of the law goes away. It's simply represented by someone else. And that's where we're at. That's what's happening is the educational tool of the law is being levered by the left.
And I have to agree with you. Example, one of the biggest examples that we've had recently, th- these protesters getting released with no punishment whatsoever, or just like light fines, if that.
And Kyle Rittenhouse getting charged.
Yeah. Wait, so
And
they actually went through and charged him, or do they just are they still prosecuting him?
I
Still
believe,
prosecuting him.
yeah, they're still prosecuting him. He was extradited to the other state where he
Yeah,
didn't commit any crime, or no, it's where he did commit the quote unquote crime,
yeah.
allegedly,
Did he
because
commit the act? Yes. Did he commit a crime? According
no,
to according to the state, it's in the air. According to all of us, with what I think is the only sanity left anymore. No, he didn't commit a fucking crime. He protected himself, just like anybody would want a pregnant woman with a child to protect their kid too, at least in their house or in their car. Well, fuck that. Even out in the street. What am I
yeah,
saying?
no, even out in the street, fuck it, if someone's attacking you,
End them.
survive, survive.
Yup.
And yes, if that means ending them, you fucked around, they found out. That's how it works.
I
You
think
And
technically,
though.
so
you technically can't defend yourself in Australia.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah,
well, you
you
can't defend
can.
yourself in
You
California either.
can't. You can defend yourself, but there's a big chance you could get sued for it.
Yeah.
But that barely happens because the case gets thrown out.
Yeah. Now where I live now in Texas, we have castle doctrine and stand your ground, which essentially means if you are attacked, and you have to respond with deadly force, you will be put before a grand jury just to dot their I's and cross their T's. But generally, as a rule, you will not be charged with the crime.
Yeah.
What it also means is that because of castle doctrine, you are immune from civil liability or civil lawsuits when defending your own person and your home and your property. So we're completely protected.
Well, keep in mind there's that couple up in St. Louis that thought that too, and they're finding out otherwise
Yes,
now.
and that's what I mean is we do have an obligation as a country and as a people to make sure that our cultural norms are enforced in the law, and that we can't rely on this bland um, constitutionalist abstraction of what the law should be. No, there needs to be a tangible social force for what we expect from our judiciary and what we expect from our court system.
Yeah,
And that's no
I
longer
agree.
being represented at all
I agree to
in
that
any way,
too.
shape, or form. So, and we need to get it out of our heads that fighting for the enforcement of our norms is fascist, because it's not fascist in any way, shape, or form. The government, it's the repudiation of the government telling you what you can and can't do, as opposed to the government telling you, in effect, you must bend the knee, because that's where we're at now.
I definitely got that sentiment in Kansas.
In Kansas?
Oh yeah. So I'm in Wichita, Kansas. I don't really give a rat's ass about doxing myself. So I got hemmed up by the county because uh, there was a little boy that was pinching my daughter at school, and the teacher was asking if I had done it, and was asking uh, what we had done the morning of her going to school. I got her dressed for school, played with her a bit, got her on the damn bus. Well, I end up in jail going, well, this did not pan out as expected. I thought I was innocent until proven guilty. Shit.
Wait a minute. They put you in jail because another little boy was harassing your daughter.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. We didn't find this out until after my criminal trial and after getting my daughter back. It was a freaking freak show. So the prosecution, the state, the DA, the county, the DA tried to play my wife against me, and my wife said, "Fuck that shit. He didn't do what you guys said that he
Oh,
did."
good Lord.
Oh yeah, my wife was completely on my side, and because of that, they tried to use my wife against me. And while I was actually in jail, the first person I called was my wife. I don't have anybody else to call. I don't talk to anybody else, actually, other than you guys so far. But I don't talk to anybody else. A lot of people here are drama mongers, but I call my wife, tell her I'm going to need a lawyer because alls I can get is a public defender.
Mm,
And for like 2, 3 weeks, me and my wife are talking on payphone, not the first phone call was a payphone looking thing, and
yeah.
then when I got to what's called a pod, it's a cell that houses 30 to 40 people, but
Yep.
everybody has everybody has enough space to move around. It's not a big deal. It's a
Yeah.
lot like being in high school. But while I was there, I would do video chats with my wife, and if I couldn't do video chats, just outright phone calls with my wife. And it was 2 to 3 weeks until I found out through my wife's mom, after I tried to call my wife, that we weren't supposed to be talking at all, that it was in my paperwork. And I looked through my paperwork real quick. I was like, it's not actually here. Well, come to find out, my public defender had it and hadn't informed me of any of this.
Oh, what a
And
piece of shit.
well, I would have to agree with you because I actually went through two public defenders. The first public defender essentially kicked my case down the road until she was able to leave that county for another county. And then the second public defender, my wife actually told him that I have no idea what the hell's going on and that the last public defender sucked and didn't tell me anything that was going on. So he brought me into his office. This was after I got out of jail. He goes, "What do you know so far?" That we're going to court, and that as far as I know, you're gathering evidence. He goes, "Oh God, you have no idea you're pleading out." Well, I do now.
What the hell?
Oh yeah, it was great.
Have you won the case, or what exactly?
Oh, we went through it. I got charged with 3 misdemeanors, something or rathers. Ended up getting my daughter back full custody after shit. I think it was like 2 years of jumping through some hoops, but it's a state. As long as you keep your nose clean, there's nothing you can fucking do for life.
What the hell?
Yeah, it was a joke.
No,
Have the
what's the...
misdemeanors got dropped, or what exactly?
The what?
Misdemeanors.
Oh no,
Have
I
they
still
been?
have those 3 misdemeanors. Did it about 7 years, and then I could probably get them wiped off my record.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and each time I go for a job interview, they go, "Do you have a criminal record?" Yeah, I do, but I can't remember what it is. They're 3 misdemeanors for one case, and I tell them what happens. They're like, "Well, that's bullshit." I was like, "I know, but it is what it is. If you don't, the justice system, the amount of justice you get is based on how much money you can put into it."
Ah,
That's
okay.
fucked.
Is that you
That's not
moving
me.
around, Spicy?
I think so. Give me a second. I'm on here. I'm gonna mute this for a little bit and see if I can.
All right, we have him on mute for a minute.
That is.
So
That's
I
fucked.
unmute.
yeah, go ahead and mute yourself so you
Okay.
can come on whenever you're ready. So good mercy.
Yeah.
But no, and that's what I mean is fighting for, family values should not be de facto fascism. And I'm very disturbed by not just the left's portrayal of it, but the almost open complicity that the right has to accept that label. And I don't know if the right looks at it as a meme or if they're looking at it as a viable option. And it terrifies me that they could be looking at it as a viable option because it's really not. It's really
Some of
not
the I'll let you go.
it's really not a viable option because and even in the most extreme cases in America where you have like right wing response uh, organizations like say the Proud Boys, they are openly against all forms of fascism. Like they do not want the government having power. They do not want the government telling you what you can and can't do. But they do want you to have the right to live the American dream, to have a good Christian life. And so I don't know where adopting that label or that paradigm is in any way acceptable. I'm deeply concerned about this.
I know a few people who are fairly pro-family,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them are from America, and they're immigrants from the Eastern Bloc.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
they came from the other side of the wall.
Yep.
Okay.
Really lovely people.
Yeah, and I mean, well, when we talk about family values, like it's nothing. How do I say this? It's nothing controversial. It's nothing. it's nothing extreme. Like it's basic raw humanity, and I'm
But the
trying. Go on.
but the mask is post one of this. So if you get rid of it, you can basically do whatever you want.
If you get rid of family values,
Yeah, you can basically do whatever you want. Think about it.
well, yeah.
The
I
first
mean, that's
distillery of the culture is in the family.
yep. No, you're absolutely right, and that's another thing that I've been thinking about is I talked about this with William, I believe, if because he asked about my definition of conservatism, and I told him that my definition of conservatism is the maintenance and the promotion of the family, and even if you look into any demographic, white, Asian, black, Hispanic, when you remove the individual from the family unit, or you take data from individuals where the family unit is, shall we say, uh, yeah, from
Yeah,
where the family unit is compromised, the individual suffers invariably. And
I that actually happened to me. My family unit was suffered due to a divorce.
mhm,
What's really common in Australia, sadly.
yeah, and it compromises the individual. And if you think I'm mistaken, I mean, this is actually being monopolized in pop culture. If you've either read or watched the Game of Thrones series, or I personally, like, I read the books because I couldn't
Um,
stand waiting for the series. Um,
I've watched the first season.
okay, one of the best things about Game of Thrones that really pulled people in it was the concept of the houses. And in Game of Thrones, regardless of all of the intrigue and all the drama between the characters, a Stark was always a Stark, a Targaryen was always a Targaryen, and a Lannister was always a fucking Lannister. They
Because it's
all,
about family,
exactly,
kind of.
they all had this core ethos that they, as family members, um, developed themselves around, and that kind of
Hmm.
formed their identity, and not only informed their worldview, but it helped them gain power in that world. And a huge thing about Game of Thrones is, like, which house would you belong to? When all that's doing is trying to fill in the hole that you didn't get from your family.
Mm.
And
I
I
haven't
think that,
really finished Game of Thrones, so I can't really answer that question.
wait, say that again?
I think I misheard you say something.
Well, what did you think you misheard?
About which house would you choose from Game of Thrones?
Well, no, and what I said, no, they're like, one of the big parts of Game of Thrones is asking yourself, or asking the people involved, like, what house of Game of Thrones would you be
Oh,
from?
okay then. Yep.
And so what that does, in my opinion, is it's filling a hole for people who should be asking, like, it's filling that hole for people asking themselves, like, what does my family stand for? And I think that that's something that most people are yearning for. Like, they yearn for a family identity. Like, they're yearning for a structure in which to flourish, and they don't have it. Like, they want that identity to grow in and flourish in, and be one with, to identify with, that makes them different from everyone else in the world, but at the same time it still gives them the room to grow and differentiate themselves within their own family.
I know I'm trying to find that.
Yeah, most of you are, like, most people do. I was fortunate. Like, I didn't, like, my parents are still married and they're still together. They followed me to Texas. I have very strong family bonds, and I'm grateful for that. And to contrast that,
And
well,
you
not
should be.
well, well, it's this next example isn't even strictly a
Give me a
contrast.
minute.
All right.
No, I'll be out. Already done that.
Some of it's purpose too.
Some
Sorry
of
about
it's
that.
what?
Some of it's purpose too.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like the purpose that you get from your family identity is crucial. And that's what makes it so wonderful to have. And I
Final?
understand why the left is so fighting to destroy it. Go on.
I'll be going to have dinner and I might not come back, so yeah.
All right, man.
Alright.
We'll talk to you later.
Yep, see ya.
All right. Bye, runner.
Yep.
Do. All right. So, anyways, um, so I don't know how much of that you caught, Spicy.
Everything until it dropped out because my phone got away from the puck.
No. Basically, we were talking about how when you look at family demographics of basically every racial group, how the more removed an individual becomes from the family unit, how more susceptible they are, and how they have higher crime statistics. They have just a lower rate of success.
Yeah,
The more broken their family is, and you see this reflected in some pop culture phenomenons like Game of Thrones, where you have the concept of these houses. And the great
yeah,
thing,
I heard about that. Now about Game of Thrones. So I think I watched like 4 or 5 episodes. I
mhm,
think because I'm sorry, Game of Thrones was not my bag. While the concept cool, I couldn't get over how shit the castles were. Like, I'm sorry, it was bad. At least from that aspect. But Game of Thrones really kicked off because of the family aspect of the series and
right.
also the conflict involved. Now I don't know how many I don't know why the hell people are into this thing, but I had to quit watching after the mom got caught
Oh
by the
yeah.
little. Yeah, I had to quit watching after that scene because I was like, nope, I draw a hard fuck you right there. I'm good.
Yep. Well, I personally I did not watch the series first. I read the books.
Yeah,
And so and even in the books, it was phenomenal to me about the main drive and the main attraction to Game of Thrones was the family identity that each of these characters had, and the power that they had because they were in this family unit, and the virtues of each family.
yeah.
uh, and it was striking to me that what we're missing in America and what the left has attacked is that kind of family identity that we're all supposed to have. Like we,
It, it's not just that either. It's a lot of. I sent you a message about it. Some of the issues being mommy and daddy issues,
yep,
but also it's not just mommy and daddy issues, but for even when let's say my daughter decides, oh, forget that, my daughter's not going to go to college. My son, let's say my daughter's not going to go to college unless she joins the Air Force and wants to be a fighter pilot, like she keeps saying she wants to. She's 9. My son, though, if he goes to college, let's say he goes to college and he comes back and he's not what he was when he left. He is completely against everything that I say because I do try and have political discussions with him,
Yep.
and he's 14, so I listen to a lot of news and political stuff and philosophy stuff, and he doesn't pay attention. He starts tuning it out, and when I do have a conversation with him, it's just kind of it's a ho hum thing. He hasn't really thought these things out. The problem, one issue you'll run into is once these ho hum kids will go to college, they'll be surrounded by nothing but what they want, what the college wants. And these college right now, the money is with all this SJW BS.
I'm going to stop you right there. I'm just going to offer a few words of encouragement. You think it's ho hum. He's listening.
He is he is
It
listening.
doesn't
Can't so
it doesn't
okay, butt
sound
ahead.
like it. It doesn't sound like it. But I promise you that whenever this um, SJW crap pops up in his classes, your voice is going to be playing in the back of his head. I promise you. So
I hope it
keep it up,
does.
man. No, I'm serious. Keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing. I don't care if he acts like he's interested. It will eventually sink in, and that will help him fight it off. So whatever you're doing, just don't stop.
Oh, I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna keep doing it till he leaves, and then every once in a while when he comes back, I'll check. I'm too lazy to
Good.
quit. Quitting takes effort. But when your kid goes to college and they do have the ho hum attitude, it especially if it's a very if your household doesn't have conflict, like you don't have the occasional shouting match, I'd say once a month at least. Shouting's not a bad thing, especially if it's constructive. That and there needs to be shouting in my house because my hearing's absolute shit. But when I'm hashing it out with my son or my daughter, and my daughter's getting into it too. For a while, it was Trump's bad. Why? Because everybody at school said so. But why? Because everybody at school said so. Okay, what is your opinion? I don't care what the school says. What do you say? She goes, oh, I don't know. Okay, cool. Find out. You tell me. Uh, are you sure?
Yeah. Well, no. One of the it, actually, I had a similar experience with when my daughters were young, and one of the first experiences that my daughters had, because in elementary school they were pressuring the kids to have their own election for the president of the United States back in 2016,
My kids
and
just went through that this year.
yeah, and they pressured the girls to vote for the first female president,
Okay.
to put it mildly. And so my daughter comes home. She's like, "I voted for the first woman president." And then both me and my wife look back at him like, "You know she supports abortion, right?" And as soon as and as soon as that reality sunk in over my daughter, she's like, "Oh no, I can't vote for that."
Yeah.
So it's and politics in my house is almost a second language. Like my daughter will watch all of the latest Netflix shows, and she'll tell me when like they get all SJW, and when She-Ra gets disgusting and Steven Universe is stupid.
Yeah.
So I know I've put in the red flag programming fairly well. So I'm hoping it carries over. I'm hoping it lasts.
Yeah, my son and my daughter understand the idea of basing things off of merit, and I've uh, I've tried to instill more into the as much as I can into them, but it's just when they go to school, I don't know. My daughter will
Yeah.
fight for herself. That's not an issue. My son, on the other hand, we're having to do in-home learning because of all this kung flu BS.
Yep.
The English teacher and this sent me flying off the deep end. The English teacher wasn't giving out English assignments. Well, okay, they were English assignments based on uh, left wing
Yo.
topics.
All right, just hang on, runner.
Alright.
They were
Go on,
based
sir.
on they were based on lefty topics. For example, God, trying to remember what it was.
Well, while you're
Uh,
remembering, my daughter had her social studies teacher, quote unquote social studies, not history. Um,
okay,
he had a class where he's like, "Do we think that? Can you say that the electoral college is really fair?" And and we're just like, "Oh no, we're cutting off this nonsense. We'll have a chat about this later, daughter." But no, she's the one who brings it to our attention, and and then it was really weird because he's one of those young teachers. He clearly just got his certificate or whatever degree he needed, and he's promoting like more state expansion of education
oh God,
because and it's always over the flimsiest shit. Like one of his diatribes was making fun of his dad because his dad doesn't use technology that well. And I'm sitting here going, you're trying to teach your class and you're shitting on your dad in class. Not a good
yeah,
look, sir. Not a
no,
good look. And
Somebody's got
it's
problems.
yeah.
he yeah. So what was your situation with the English class?
I can't remember that specific situation off the top of my head now, but the second situation we did run into was uh, he did a report on John Brown. If just in case John Brown was a abolitionist, he raided a armory called Harper's Ferry, and they had a gunfight there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Is he or is he not a terrorist? Well, of course, you could see how that one went in the school chat, the log, and in the audio. But it got to the point where my son was trying to convey to the teacher that, in the technical sense of what a terrorist is, yes, John Brown, right today, as of the legal definition now, would be considered a terrorist. Therefore, the actions taken by Antifa, by BLM, when they do have their riots, would also be considered terrorists because their actions have caused the death of at least 30 people right now. It might be 32. I'd have to look into that number. But it got to the point where even the teacher was starting to get upset. So I had to hop on, hit the headset I'm on now, and actually talk directly to the teacher that yes, John Brown was an abolitionist. What he did, while noble in this time frame, current context now, yes, he's a terrorist, but back then, something like that hasn't happened. Nothing like that had happened at that point. So
Yeah.
he is not a terrorist at that time. He is, in all actuality, based on the propaganda that the Union was putting out before the Civil War kicked off, a martyr for the abolitionist cause, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but because people died, it's a bad thing. But you're not going to get anywhere in life causing dramatic change without a little fucking bloodshed. And I think that's what's on their mind right now.
Oh yeah. Well, no doubt. And I'm also worried about the right being so bullied into this fascist notion that the spilling of blood for your own paradigm, for your own ideals, isn't inherently fascist either. Like, even though the most bloody street gangs are always communist and fascist and, shall we say, leftist street gangs, um, the again, if John Brown was technically a terrorist, let's let's take that a little further. I will completely admit that by that paradigm that the Americans terrorized the British and
you're
won.
completely right. Yeah. Yeah, the founding fathers were terrorists.
We successfully terrorized ourselves into a new nation, and we shouldn't have to apologize for it. And I sincerely wish that we were more willing to do it again.
On the same token, though, well, never mind.
Yeah, exactly. I think I might know where you were trying to go with that, but then
Maybe.
again, I'm not going to try and mind read. But let's just say that we as conservatives tend to have knee-jerk reactions when it comes to the idea of spilling blood.
It also doesn't help that everyone has Nazi Tourette's and everyone's basing everything off of Nazism at this point, other than looking at the actual idea itself and going, "This is fucking stupid. This
And
does not work. It never has. This is actually mental health issues. You should get that looked at, not cut your junk off. Let's go and fuck you now."
Well, no, and it's also the idea that nothing is worth killing for anymore.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna bang that drum till it gets in people's heads that there are virtues worth killing for.
Yep.
That'll die in full.
Yes, but those two go hand in hand. If you're willing to kill, you're gonna run the risk of getting killed for it.
Yeah, but I'm gonna take as many down with me as I can.
And again, not necessarily fascism.
No, it's not.
Nearly every ideology, every side has to do this. Force does not equal fascism.
On top of that, fascism is a hate against a particular people, whereas communism is a hate of a specific class of people, and that would be the rich.
You see, and that's why I like American conservatism. It's only the hatred against the tyrant, regardless of what side they come from.
It is literally a hate for government, but only keeping government around because it's necessary for the function of a country just to interact with other countries. It's not supposed to affect your everyday freaking life.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty. I think we've said all we had to say on the subject, unless you two have anything more you'd like to add.
No,
not really.
I could go on for days. No worries, though. There'll be other days.
Well, no. Hang on. Is there an angle of this you think that we have not sufficiently explored? One fascist to another.
We keep using their language, their base. They call us Nazi. We go, no, you guys are actually doing Nazi things. That is not an effective method of communication anymore, nor is actually talking to them. We can't do outright violence because there is nobody to unify us. There is a unifying idea, which is to get back to what we were. And I have to say, the Democrats didn't have any bad ideas back during the civil rights era, giving people equal rights all across the freaking board. That's a great thing. That's awesome.
Actually, dude, my dude, that was mostly Republican.
I understand that. I know that, but unfortunately now I have to communicate it to them. You can't go to an everyday damn leftist and go, "Hey, that Southern strategy thing, the the switch that happened that never happened. They go, oh yeah, well so and so said it. Okay, that's great, but look at your hit. Go read your books. Go find out which of these racist Southern Democrats actually switched Republican. There's only two. I can't remember their names off the top of my heads.
Yeah. I can't remember them either. And then again, what was their voting record like after they switched is another important question, which I
Yeah,
don't have the answer to. Maybe they had a change of heart, maybe they didn't. But then again, uh,
and
Robert Byrd.
another part of the issue where everyone runs into when you are trying to speak sense to these people, when you are literally telling them the facts, the truth, what actually happened, it they don't think it applies to them because it's not their lived experience. No shit, Sherlock. No one's going to have the same freaking lived experience. Period.
Well, I'll be honest. I think that lived experiences are more. There's more commonality between lived experience than there's not. The problem is you have people vouching for ideas and experiences they haven't themselves encountered. And they want to, quote unquote, hashtag believe all when they're
Yeah.
fighting for something that they themselves have not encountered. And I'm not gonna I'm not just gonna listen and believe anymore. Like if someone says, "Oh, I was racially I was a victim of racism," okay, when, how, like I no shit. I was homeless in Hollywood for 3 months.
Oh God.
Yeah. And this
Ooh.
was this was during the Occupy LA movement. Just to give you a time frame, it was during I think it was like 2011, 2012. Anyways, so around that time, and I met several of like the homeless community in Hollywood at that time. There is someone on my Facebook page who claims that they're constantly the victim of unsolicited racist profiling. And I shit you not, I remember being homeless in LA with this guy. A, he did not keep the best company. Two, he didn't keep the best habits. He was clear.
Ah,
He was clearly in league with the criminal element of the area.
Ah, yeah, that doesn't help things.
And it's just like, dude, I was profiled. I'm like, no, you are a known suspect
Yeah.
in several actions. Don't tell me that they just rolled up on you for no reason. Fucker, I know better. I was there with you. And so anytime I hear these claims of racism, I'm like, no, I'm not. I cannot believe that someone of your experience and of your lifestyle could honestly believe that it was just a random a stop. There's more baggage to you than that.
And
And
they
to
don't want
say
to take responsibility for it. They just push it off on something else instead of going, "Oh, I'm the piece of shit in this equation."
exactly, and I'm sitting here going, no, it's and he's not a bad person. He's not a gang member. He's nothing like that. But when you're in such close proximity to it, expect to be expect to be handed down some collateral damage. At least own up to your own acquaintances and your own social circle. Uh,
Oh
to
yeah.
to suggest otherwise is just on openly dishonest. But
Yep.
apparently, I'm a fascist for thinking that.
Aren't we all
and
apparently?
I think we're gonna end it here, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your tinkering around with this quiz and learning that apparently we're all fascists here.
No
All right,
problem.
all right. Everyone, say goodbye.
Later.
See you, everyone.
All right. God bless and stay carnal, everyone.